Hey guys, welcome back to Credit Bootcamp, week 2. We are on week 2. Week 1, as you guys know, we just sort of discussed credit scoring, the just the basics of how our credit scores are set up. Um, the different things that a lot points to us for whatever each of the 5 categories of our credit score. And so we went through that last week. We went through each point. And if you didn't get a chance to watch that, make sure you go. It's inside the group. It's inside the community. Just go to week 1, and it'll be up, so you'll be able to go over the basics. Because today we are going to discuss credit reporting. Right now, credit reporting is sort of it's simple on the surface, but it leads to disputing. So I'll just say that, right? And because it leads to disputing, and because our next topic is disputing, um, we're gonna discuss, obviously, like the main parts of our credit reports and the surface level information about credit reporting. But in addition to that, we're also going to sort of discuss disputing in a roundabout way. Okay. All right. So let me know when you guys can see the presentation. Am I too loud? Feel like I'm a little loud, but that is all good. All right. How are you guys? I didn't even ask that. Trying to make sure my camera is right. How are you guys today? How are you? Okay, y'all can hear me. Okay. All right, I'm so excited to get through today. I promised y'all last week that I would only keep y'all for an hour. I can promise you this week is going to be short because we are only discussing the basic surface level of our credit reports, and we're going to sort of lean into disputing and all of that. But that's the main topic for next week is disputing, which is what I know a lot of you guys want. So let me just go ahead and get started. Try to give people a few minutes to get in, but if they're not here at this point, then yeah, we gotta get started. Okay, so credit reporting 101. Now, first of all, did anyone get a copy of their credit report? Did y'all get your credit report? Or if you don't have a physical copy of your credit report, when was the last time you downloaded your official credit report? Or have you ever? And I'm not referring to credit monitoring reports. I'm not referring to a report that you received as a result of maybe like a application or something like that. When was the last time you saw your own credit reports, all 3 of them, and downloaded them fully? Me. Okay, perfect. Okay. So I'm great. Thank you for asking. Yes. So it's really good that you guys have already downloaded your credit reports, even if you don't have an updated copy right now. um at least you know how to get it, right? At least you know how to retrieve it. And for those of you who don't know how to get a copy of your official credit report, which I want to be clear is going to be very, very important, especially when it comes to disputing those harder accounts that may be giving you a hard time and getting removed, like charge offs and public records, and honestly, even some collections at this point. In order to have the best chance of getting those removed, in order to ensure that your credit report is accurate and complete, which you are 100% entitled to, then you must have a copy of your official credit reports. And we get our credit reports free. So we have the ability to get our credit reports one time a year free. If you go to annualcreditreport.com, you should be able to download all 3 of your credit reports. They will ask you some verification questions. As long as you get those right, as long as you pass that identity verification, then you usually are able to download your credit report same day. If you run into an issue where you are not able to download it the same day, then you typically will have to either send them a letter to request your credit reports via mail, or you can just call them. Okay. So everyone needs to know how to get a copy of their credit report. I cannot stress that enough. Um, if you don't already have it, I highly, highly, highly would suggest that you get it before next week, because if you are disputing anything and are having issues with disputing, then you're going to want to have your credit report present. Okay. So let's move on. First off, what is a credit report? So a credit report is a detailed record of our credit history, right? I liken it to like a report card. The same way we'll have a report card in school, and it'll give us a rundown of how we are doing in all of our classes, right? Some classes will include certain details while other classes will include other details. So when it comes to your credit report, it is not the same as your credit score. Your credit report does not even include your credit score. So those are two completely separate things. Your credit report is a record of your credit history from the last 7 to 10 years, depending on if you have the presence of like a public record on your credit report or not, right? If you don't have any public records on your report, then typically you will only have a history back 7 years, okay, at the max. So between today and 7 years ago, there'll be a history of all of the credit accounts that you've had, whether they are open, closed, whether they were charged off, whether they were paid in full. It's a history. It's meant to be a history. Therefore, lenders will use your credit report, take your credit report, analyze it, and determine how likely are you in the future based on what's already on your credit report to default on the borrowed money from them, right? Whether that's a loan, a credit card, or whatever you're loaning, whatever they're lending you. They use your credit report. They use your credit report to determine how likely you are to pay them back. What is your risk level? What is your risk score? How risky of a borrower are you? Okay. Which is why it's so important that your credit report is as accurate as humanly possible, but also something that I feel is often looked over is not only are we entitled to a accurate credit report, you are also entitled to a complete credit report. Okay. So we'll revisit these terms shortly. But before that, I wanted to discuss the role of the credit bureaus, because this is another thing that I feel is not fully understood, like their role, right? Most people, when they think about the credit bureaus, they usually think that they are the ones that assigns their credit score. They are the ones that are adding collections and stuff like that to their account, right, to their credit reports, and that is not the case. Your The credit bureaus and your credit report, the only role that the credit bureaus have, which are TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian, the only role that they have in this is reporting the information that your creditors send to them. Okay. So they're literally like a library, right, of the information that's being sent to them. And their only job, this is going to be important, especially when we talk about disputing. The credit bureau's only job is to ensure that the information that they are receiving is complete, is up to date, and is accurate. If you're not watching the TV, I did air quotes when I stated the credit bureau's job is also to make sure that your credit reports are accurate. Because we'll get into that. However, their entire job, the entire reason why the credit bureaus have come to be is who they are and what they are, is because they are to ensure, they're supposed to be that mediator between the creditors and the consumers, which is us, right? They're supposed to be the mediator, and they're supposed to take the information from the lenders and collect the information and report it in a standardized way and sum up your credit report. Therefore, your future lenders, your current lenders, they're able to see all of your credit accounts and make and determine how risky you are as a borrower, or determine, how much they're going to lend you. So that's the only job of the credit bureaus. Again, that's going to be important in just a second. Um, oh, all right. Now, who regulates the credit bureau? So if the credit bureaus are the mediator, and they're supposed to they're supposed to ensure that we have a accurate, complete, and up-to-date credit report, is the role of the credit bureau. Who regulates that? What happens when we don't have an accurate credit report? What happens when the information is out of date? What happens when there's incomplete information on our credit reports? What do we as consumers do when the credit bureaus are not doing their job? Do we only have the credit bureaus to go to and complain about and dispute with, or do they have someone over them or entities that regulate them, right? And the answer is yes. Um, they have a few agencies that are above them, right? And the main one is the CFPB, which is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. The CFPB has been in the news a lot recently. However, they're the main regulator over the credit bureaus, and their goal and their job is to enforce our consumer laws. So mainly, namely the FCRA, which is the Fair Credit Reporting Act. It's literally a set of laws and statutes that was made in order to regulate how the credit bureaus report our information. Okay. So the CFPB's job is like the principal. The credit bureaus are like the teacher, right? And then the CFPB, they're like the principal. And then the FTC, which is the Federal Trade Commission, they're like the district principal. What do you call it? Like the principal that's above the principal that's in school, like the district manager or something like that. They're higher than the principal. And then we have the OCC, the Federal Reserve, or the OCC, depending on which state you live in. But those are essentially just more laws that pertains usually to banking. They regulate how banks and lenders report to the credit bureaus, but more so they're more closely aligned with like the interest rates and things of that nature when it comes to like banks, right? So very rarely do they even step in because, as you can see, they're so far removed from the credit bureaus. And then the last two is going to be the state attorney generals, your state attorney general, that comes into play, and also the SEC, which all they're on here because literally and technically, I guess, they are supposed to regulate the credit bureaus. However, they very rarely get in the middle of it. Okay, but just for information purposes, they are supposed to regulate them. And if anything happens to the CFPB, the SEC will likely be the party who takes over. So it's great to know who they are and identify them, right? Now, why didn't it switch? Is it froze? Hold on, yeah. Okay. All right. Now, who has access to your credit report? Who has access to your credit report? Who can literally just look at your credit report right now and determine what you have on your credit report? The answer is all of your current creditors. So every single creditor, every single lender that you have an account with at this moment, they're able to request a complete copy of your credit report right now today. They're able to contact the credit bureaus and say, "Hey, send me Shonda's credit report," right? And no questions asked. If you have a open line of credit or open loan with a company with lenders, they have full legal rights to your credit report. This is how when we are given credit limit increases just out of nowhere, right? It's because the company, our creditors, they pulled our credit report because they don't have to get our permission outside of that first time. They don't have to continue to get our permission every time, right? And also, this is why sometimes you'll have your accounts just close, just suddenly your credit accounts will just close, and it's simply because most likely your current creditor, they saw something on your credit reports that they didn't like. Okay. um Also, any other creditor that you do business with, so you don't even have to have a open line of credit, but like, let's just say it's a collection agency that has an account that they believe is yours. They can actually look at your credit report. They can look at your credit report to determine what you got going on. Okay. That one is going to be very important when we discuss the third party bureaus, because that's really where the collection agencies and debt buyers, that's where they get us when it comes to our credit reports. However, they do have access. So if they believe that they have an account that is yours, they can legally access your credit report. Uh a bank, so any banks that you do business with, or if you're filling out for a bank account, or any banking services, they have legal access to request your credit report. um or any any company that you don't currently do business with, but you haven't shielded your name off from. So if you have not opted out of receiving pre-screened Pre-screened offers, I'm sorry. If you have not opted yourself out and your credit report out from receiving pre-screened offers, then banks and lenders, they have access to a portion of your credit report, and they can send you pre-qualification offers. So if you've ever received in the mail, Capital One or Discover or any lender sends you a, hey, you are approved, you're pre-approved. Um, Fill out this application and we'll get your final approval, right? They pre-qualified you, but they did not receive a full file. They didn't receive your full credit file. However, they did receive a portion, right? And most notably, you're able to see any company that received a portion of your credit report in your soft increase, right? So that's the difference between like your hard and soft increase. Soft increase, you're able to see who's been looking at your reports that you may not be aware of, right? And that's another great thing about having access to your official credit report, because looking on a credit monitoring app, most do not record all of the soft increase. And it's important that you it's important that you know who's looking at your report, even if it is your current creditors, because even when your current creditors pull a copy of your credit report, you should be aware, but also you're able to see that. So if you see that your current creditors are pulling your credit report, then you know, okay, they're either trying to give me a credit limit increase or they're trying to close my account. So it'll whatever your situation is, you'll have to move accordingly, right? Um, Another thing is if you see a random collection agency in your soft increase, they likely have a account that is on the way to your credit report that they believe is yours, right? That's one of those tips that I always like to tell people. This is why I request a new copy of my credit report, my official credit reports about every 3 months, right? Simply because I want to know who laid eyes on my report in every regard. I don't care what it's for. Insurance, it doesn't matter. If you had access to my credit report, I need to know, because what are you doing? What are we doing here? Okay. And then obviously you have access to your credit report, and you can pull your credit report at any point. Now, under the under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, which is the FCRA, any business, organization, or entity, they have to get what's called permissible purpose. Permissible purpose. Permissible purpose means that you have given explicit permission to a company to pull your credit report, and determine if you either qualify for an offer or you are still fit for the offer or account that they already have you approved for, right? And usually when we do credit applications, we just sign it away. This is that permissible purpose is typically in like the terms and conditions, the what we don't read. So a lot of the times we're like scrolling by, but like one of those paragraphs or sections is usually permissible purpose. Okay. Now, keep okay. So when you download an official copy of your credit report, it's going to look slightly different from credit monitoring apps and all of that, because, as I stated, it's a full 7 years history, right? If you're only used to seeing your credit report under the guise and under the basis of a credit monitoring app, then you're only used to seeing about probably around like 50 to 60% of your credit report, right? Because your official credit report is a lot more detailed, which is important, especially when we're talking about accuracy and completeness. But it's a lot more detailed. But and it also may seem a little confusing, a lot confusing when you are first looking at it, but it's really all broken down into 6 categories. Number one, you have your personal information. Depending on which credit bureau you are pulling, the personal information is usually at the top. The personal information section is typically at the top, right? Um, Personal information includes your identifying information, your name, your social, your addresses, your employers, your date of birth, your current addresses, your previous addresses, right? It includes all of the identifying information about you, okay? That's the personal information section. That is the most slept on section, but one of the most important sections when it comes to disputing. And we're going to spend probably the most time on personal information today, because it is so important to your disputing process. Okay. And then you have the account section. A lot of people refer to it as the trade line sections, including like creditors. They'll refer to it as trade lines or accounts, right? The account section just provides an overview of all of your open accounts. Okay, so it'll be how the total number of account or all of your accounts. I'm sorry, not just open, but all of your accounts. The total number of open accounts, closed accounts, charged off accounts. Okay, what type of accounts are they? Credit cards, mortgages, auto loans, buy here, pay later, buy now, pay later accounts, whatever, right? Retail accounts. It'll include all of that in the account section. The accounts section is typically like the largest section. Okay, it's typically like the one that takes up the most real estate when it comes to your credit report because it does include all of the account information, which is all very important. Every single line in your account section is so important and is an opportunity for you to dispute. But we'll get to that. Okay. Then next we have collections. Collections are exactly as they sound. They are your collection accounts. So any defaulted accounts that has been sold to a third party entity. That is important. A third party entity. So a collection is not the original creditor. A collection is also not a charge off. Okay. So the collection section is information received from a third party. So it's not the primary source anymore. Whereas like the account section, that's what I meant to say. The trade line or the account section, the difference between that and the collection section is the account section, that information is received from primary sources, meaning like those are going to be the companies that you do direct business with. You sign direct contracts with. You agree that you owe them or you're borrowing this money from them. You're opening this account with them. So they have a contract. They have your signature, and typically you applied for their account. Okay. Whereas a collection, you don't have any direct business. You don't have any direct contracts in place with a collection agency. Okay. So that means that either the only way that they have your account is either it was transferred from your original creditor, right? Or or they bought it from the original creditor. Whatever the case may be, the point is you do not have a direct contract with collection agencies. That's why they are separate. Accounts and collections, they're completely separate. That's important. Accounts and collections, they are completely separate. A collection account is not allowed to be in the I'm just gonna say trade lines, guys, because it always confuses me when I keep saying accounts. Okay. So trade lines, right? A collection cannot be in the trade line section because the trade lines are for original creditors only. Collections, the collection section are from third party collectors only. Okay. It is important that these two sections are separated because they by law they have to include different information. And we'll get to that. Then you have public records, which are public records, which are bankruptcies, tax liens, judgments, child support, um tax liens. I already said that. So like any public record that you have, mainly is usually just bankruptcies in this section because liens and judgments were taken off a few years ago. However, they are technically permitted again, but they're not typically on credit reports any longer. I do see child support a lot, but not like tax liens and stuff, right? But they could be on there. So depending on your state, it honestly varies. Then the next section are your inquiries, your credit inquiries. There are two different types of credit inquiries: hard inquiries, which are accounts that you are applying for credit, so that lender had access to a full copy of your credit report. And then the only difference between a hard inquiry and a soft inquiry is a soft inquiry, they didn't have full access to your report. They typically only received a portion of your report. Usually, depending on like what company it is, they'll ask for like tailored things. So if it's like an insurance company or a utility company that's pulling your credit to check to see if you owe a deposit or something, then they'll typically only want to see, maybe any collection accounts that you have and any open accounts, right? They don't really care to see all of the detailed account information and all of that, right? But that's the main difference between a hard inquiry and a soft inquiry. One had full access to your report. One only had a proportional access to your report. Okay. Um, and then the consumer statements, which if you as a consumer would like to add a consumer statement about, you honestly can add anything in there. Doesn't always help you, but you do have the privilege and the freedom to add anything in this section that you want. Um, like a personal statement if you went through a natural disaster, or if you've been disputing and you're not able to get an account removed, you can put a note and say, I don't agree with how this dispute turned out, and you'll hope, I guess, that your lenders view it and have mercy, I guess, on your report. They don't really pay attention to that, but the FCRA does require them to have that section available for us. Okay. All right. Now, back to personal information and why it is so important and why it is the cornerstone of a good dispute process. Your personal information section is the cornerstone of not only your credit report but a dispute process. Why? Well, first let's talk about what it includes. As I stated, your personal information section will include all of the various names that you have reporting to your credit report, right? Whether that was uh Jane Smith, and then you have another name, Jane D. Smith, and then maybe you were married and you have your maiden name on there, and then maybe you accidentally misspelled your name, or a company accidentally misspelled your name, then that variation of your name will be on there, right? So it is not unusual for me to see someone's credit report for the first time, like when they first download it. It's not unusual for you to see like 10 to 20 different variations of your name, right? I think when I first initially got access to my full credit report, I believe I had probably 20 names, and it was all mostly just variations and misspellings of my name. Some included the middle initial, some didn't. Some had extra letters and some didn't, right? Some had even my nickname, Shonda, um, as opposed to my full name, LaShonda, right? And this isn't unusual because every single time you fill out a credit application, every single time you open up any account that's tied to your social security number, whether that account is on your credit report or not, your creditors will send whatever personal information that you reported to them to the credit bureaus. So they'll say, let's say you apply for Capital One. They'll say, hey, LaShonda applied for this credit card, and this is the address she reported that she lives at. This is the address that we mailed her the card at, which is different from her billing address. This is the name spelling that she used. This is the employer that she uh claimed that she worked at. This is her phone number that she used, her date of birth, etc. Right? So literally they will send every single piece of information that you put on the credit application to the credit bureaus, right? Your current creditors also refreshes this information monthly. So you can, if even if you've had a creditor for 10 years, every single month they have to reinstate what personal information they have tied to that account. So if you recently updated your address, right? You've moved and you updated your cable company, or you've updated Capital One of your billing address, the very next month you will see your new address pop up on your credit report, and that's because your current creditors have to report any changes of personal information to the credit bureaus, right? And if you're anything like me, you're probably asking yourself, Why?" Like, why is personal information that important? Why does the credit bureaus really care about that section so much? If you try to dispute your personal information section, you've probably had issues, right? Like you literally probably have had problems with that. Well, the answer, it hold on, y'all. I don't know where I went. Am I back on? Okay. My bad. So yeah, so what I was saying is when it comes to your personal information, you've probably like tried to dispute it and wonder like why is the credit bureau so gung ho on this freaking information, and like why do they care so much? And that's because and also why am I calling it the cornerstone of your credit report, right? I'm calling it that. I'm calling it that because multiple reasons, but this is the main the number one, this is the main reason why I'm calling it that. So if you look on your screen, and I hope you guys can read it, it is a little tiny, but I'll read it to you. This is from an official credit report, by the way. The small little screenshot in the, I think it's your bottom left, right? It's the personal information you see. It says this person has 6 names reported, 24 addresses, 4 employers, and then 37 other records. This is all in regards to their personal information section, right? If you read the dissertation below that, and I'll read it to you, what it says is, this information is reported to us by you, your creditors, and other sources. Each source may report your information differently, which may result in variations of your name, address, social security number, etc. This is used for identification purposes only and does not factor into your credit score. All right. So right off the bat, that doesn't seem bad, right? Like, it's kind of just like, I kind of figured that that's what my personal information was for identity, to verify my identity, right? Well, then you then have to ask yourself how many, and as you see, it said this information was reported by either you, your creditors, or other sources. What are those other sources? So again, any credit application that you fill out, every single piece of information, whether you're approved or not, they're required by law to send them every piece of personal information that you've reported, right? Your utility services, even if they're not on your credit report, anytime you sign up for gas, water, electric, those companies, your utility companies, under the law, is required to send the credit bureaus the information that you report. Any time you open up a bank account, as I stated, anytime you get a new employer, by law, just like they report to the IRS, they're required to report the address that you receive, that you have reported to them. They're required to report that to the bureaus, right? Public records, obviously. So if you file bankruptcy and all of that, all of the information that was included with that file is going to go to the credit bureaus. And then credit inquiries, right? Now, why? This is the first reason why. This is called the information match system. What is this? This is literally the way that the credit bureaus verify if an account belongs to you. Okay. So the easiest way for you to understand this, because I really want you to understand how insane this is. First, let me say this. Your social security number by law is not required to be associated with your credit report. You don't have to have your social security number on your credit report, right? Um, Secondly, a collection account, when it is incoming into the credit bureaus, they don't have to include your social security number either. They don't even have to include all of the correct personal information. It's because every single credit bureau has a information match system. And what this means is they have, and this is lawful, the only thing that they have to use, the only information that they have to use in order to determine if an incoming collection account is yours or not, right? So when a collection agency buys an account from a debt buyer or buys a collection account that they believe belongs to you, what they have to do first is work to get a match with the credit bureaus, right? Because a collection agency, doesn't matter how many collection accounts they have, it doesn't matter how much it's worth. If they cannot get a match, and if they can't get that account on your credit report, they know that their chances of receiving any money is slim to none. It's dang near worthless, literally. It's usually an account is considered worthless to collection agencies if they can't get a match with the credit bureaus. That's their whole shtick, right? Now, the bar for them in order to get a match is very low. If we're talking TransUnion, they only have to match 2 to 3 pieces of information in order for an account to be considered verified. That is yours. So if I am collection agency A and I have an account that I believe belongs to you, belongs to John Smith. John Smith is a common name, right? I have an address on him, but it seems to be an old address. I'm not really sure if this is his address. I've been trying to call him and he's not really giving me any information. So I can't verify his current address. I can't verify his employer. I don't know what's going on in John Smith's life. All I know is I just have his name, John Smith, and he used to live on Main Street. Okay, well, let's just see if we can get a match. So they'll send that collection account to the credit bureaus and they'll say, "Hey, I have John Smith. He has this account from X creditor. He owes $800. I have his last name and his first name, but I don't have his social. I do have a zip code that is from 6 years ago. Let's see if you can get a match." If he were sending that to Equifax, that would be a match, because all Equifax requires is they have your last name, your first initial, so it doesn't even have to be your entire first name, and at least one piece of information in your address. So it doesn't even have to be the full address. They don't even have to have a street number. They could just have your street. They literally could just have your zip code, and that would be a match, right? If they were sending it into TransUnion, all TransUnion requires is a last name, your first name. So they require a full name, and then either the last four of your social, or if they have your full social, um, and then a piece of your address. Okay. So it doesn't take much at all for in order for a collection agency to say, hey, this I believe that this account is LaShonda's, and but I'm not sure. And as long as they can match 2 to 3 points of information, then I'm sorry, I didn't say this. They have to match information that's already in your credit file, right? So remember when I was telling you guys that the credit bureaus will hold on to your personal information as tough as they possibly can. And that's simply because the more information that you have in your personal information section is the more match points, potential matches that collection agencies and creditors are able to make, right? Now, you have to understand that the credit bureaus, the only way that they make money is by reporting accounts on your credit report. All of your lenders, all of the creditors, they have to pay the credit bureaus monthly in order to report on your credit report, right? We see this every day. Some companies can't afford to report to all three credit bureaus. So sometimes, like the smaller companies, they'll typically report to like two out of the three credit bureaus, right? Or even sometimes one, because they have to pay per bureau, per report, per month, per customer, right? So that's how the credit bureaus make their money. Therefore, it is in their best interest to keep every piece of personal information that they can, because somewhere down the line, a collection agency, a debt buyer is going to come to them and present an account, and they're going to want to match 2 to 3 match points of information so that they can legally report the account to your credit report and get paid. Okay? So, knowing this will lead to my next point, which is you have to clean up your personal information section. If you really want a real chance at disputing your account, in fact, if you have lingering accounts that are you just can't get removed. Let's just say you've been challenging them. 9 times out of 10, it's not being removed because that information is still tied to some personal information that you have on your credit report. Okay. As I showed you in the last slide, the dissertation stated this information we collect from various sources, and we use it for identity verification. We use it for identity verification for your accounts, right? So they want to make it seem very serving to us. Like we use it. It's in your best interest to keep this information here, but it's not. It's actually not at all. Okay, because the more information that they have, the bigger the chance that a collection agency is going to be able to verify an account. This is why when we are disputing accounts and they're coming back quick, you disputing an account and TransUnion didn't verify it in 3 days, and you ask yourself why. Simply because again, all they have to do is match your personal information and say, hey, yep, this is her account. We don't care what she said. This is her account because we have a last name match, a first name match, and a zip code match. And because of that, legally, this account is considered a match, right? This is why I cannot stress enough about how when you guys are disputing online, which you should not be, but if you are disputing online and you are or if you ever dispute stating that, hey, this account is not mine, or this is identity theft, I don't recognize this account, right? When you do low level disputes like that, that's the easiest type of dispute for the credit bureaus to prove wrong, because again, it's not like they're having to truly verify your identity in relation to that collection. No, all they got to do is match up 2 to 3 points, which is incredibly easy considering how much information that we typically have in our personal information section. And in 2 days, and usually less than 24 hours, they didn't got a match. And now because you disputed you disputed identity theft, or identity, your dispute was based on verifying your identity, right? because you disputed in that regard, then all they have to do is prove that your identity matches the account. They don't have to prove that the account is reporting accurately. They don't have to prove that the amount is accurate at all. So anytime you deny an account is yours and it's really yours, nothing else on that account matters. Even if everything else on that account is wrong, because you took the route of denying that the account belongs to you and it does, that's where their dispute stops. That's all they have to do. That's all that they have to prove by law, is that it belongs to you, which, as you can see, is not that it's literally not that hard to do. It's not hard at all for them to do, right? Which is why it's never in your best interest to falsely claim that an account is not yours ever. That doesn't serve you at all. Even if it's temporarily removed, which usually it is, it'll be back. It will be back, because again, verification is way too easy for the credit bureaus. Like, they love those type of disputes. Okay. Now, well, dang, I don't like how it smashed. Yeah, I can't. Can y'all see this? I kind of feel like it's not showing you guys. Would you guys like for me to make the screen bigger? The presentation bigger? Let's see. Um Not the biggest fan of how that is. Um Give me 1 second, y'all. Let me. I'm not sure why on my iPad it looks for some reason on the iPad it looks a lot clearer, but like to you guys, to me it looks tiny, but uh, let me see. Yeah, it's tiny. Let me see if I could do just a full screen of. Is that a little better? No, it's not. Like, can you guys see that? We're not going to be able to see the top, but we can see the bottom. Did that improve it at all? Yes. Okay. Let me go back to the slide. Dang, every time I tap, it goes forward, but I want it to go back. Okay. So as you are browsing, as you are browsing through your personal information section, one of the things that I want you guys to really pay attention to is if there are any unfamiliar addresses, obviously within your personal information section, if there's any outdated addresses or just anything that you do not recognize or that's outdated, again, because you are entitled to a up-to-date credit report, which means that any information that's older than 7 years, it is legally not considered, it is legally considered outdated, right, when it comes to our credit reports. uh I'm actually trying to, because I have a larger version of it, which is what I'm trying to airdrop right now to the screen. Give me 1 second. Mm, okay, let me pull this one up because I think this one will probably show better. How do you play? Go ahead and play full screen. Why is the side showing? Give me, child. That's gonna bother me. Hold on, y'all. Okay. All right. Now, is that clearer? Okay. I feel like that's slightly better. All right. Then it has a little contrast on this one. Okay. My bad, yeah. Because I'm like, if y'all can't see it, then what is the point? Okay. Let me go back to where we were. All right. So another way that your personal information is super important is debt collection. So anytime a collection agency is searching for you, is looking for you, is trying to determine where you live, they either obviously will try to contact you, will try to call you. And if they have called you, you'll notice that they'll try to get you to reveal information, right? Like they'll try to say, can you verify your social? Can you verify your address? Can you um verify the information on this account before I speak to you, right? And on one regard, obviously they should do their due diligence in verifying that the account belongs to you, because by law they can't just obviously talk about your account willy-nilly to anyone. However, you as a consumer shouldn't be talking to debt collectors or collection agencies over the phone, simply because they're trying to at all times trying to receive and retrieve more information, as much information as they could, about the account, about your identification. Therefore they can send it to the credit bureaus to ensure that they get a match. Okay, so I don't advise you guys to talk on the phone to any collectors or anything. In fact, what I typically do is tell them, hey, if you believe that this account is mine, then I prefer to only communicate via written communication. They can't refuse it. If you tell them that you do not want to talk to them over the phone, they cannot continue to harass you. They can't continue to try to make you talk to them over the phone. They can't do it. They can't threaten you, but by way of legal action or anything. You simply are telling them that you prefer to speak to them through mail, okay? Because um outside of a host of other tricky things that they'll do to get you to verify the account unknowingly, and how sneaky that they are with that, you will have to give up some information in order to even talk about the account in the first place. And every single piece of information that you give up ties back to usually your personal information, right? Like they'll be like, just verify the address. No, because more than likely, if they are asking, if they're constantly calling you without, and it's not on your credit report yet, or maybe the time is nearing where it'll fall off your credit report, is usually because they don't have all the information that they're legally required to in order to verify that account. That's one of the telltale ways that you're able to know if a collection agency actually has all the information that they're supposed to. If they're constantly trying to call you, because they're not calling you just to do you a favor. No, they usually can't send it to the credit bureaus. Therefore, they're trying to do anything that they can in order to get the account qualifiable, or it's useless. It's literally not worth anything to them. So written communication only. Okay. Um. Also, maybe I should leave that. But okay. Also, if a company is trying to locate you, whether that's a collection agency, a debt buyer, your current creditors, literally even like ICE, right? They use this information in order to locate you, right? So when we talk about LexisNexis and other third party entities, you'll see how much, number one, our data is worth. Our personal information is worth way more than any account on our credit report, right? Literally, these companies make the bulk of their money, the majority of their money, simply by collecting information. So the least amount of information as possible that they have on you, the better. And I'm not saying that you have to live like a monk and live off grid in order to achieve that. No, you have a right to request that certain information is off of your credit report. Okay. The only information that's lawfully required is your current address, right? Your name, obviously. Your social security number is not even required on your credit report. However, I don't personally have an issue with mine being on there, because it is what it is. They're going to get your social somehow or somewhere or another, right? Um, my phone number, I typically will keep a phone number on my credit report, just in case like a company wants to call me and to ensure that I like apply for something, right? But this is the profile that I would recommend for you guys. So if you have 10 different variations of your name and whatever, however many addresses, then your first step one or whatever step you are in a process, take a pause and tend to your personal information. And you can tend to your personal information at the same time as like disputing your accounts. These are totally different and separate disputes, but it's super important that you clean up your personal information section, or you're going to eventually run into a obstacle. You're going to keep running into the wall in terms of trying to get accounts that are connected to your personal information removed. It's going to literally be dang near impossible, even if it's reporting inaccurately, right? um I always recommend to have at max two variations of your name on your credit report, right? If you're able to have just one, that's best, right? um but like, let's just say your name is Natasha Campbell, but sometimes you go by Tasha. It's not unusual to have Tasha Campbell and Natasha Campbell on your credit report, or maybe sometimes you use your middle initial and then sometimes you spell out your middle name. Dwindle those down, and when you are applying for new credit, make sure that you have in mind and keep in mind how you want your name reported on your credit report. I typically recommend to match your name with what's already on your credit report exactly, right? And that sounds like a no-brainer, right? But there is so often um mismatches in the variations of the name, your names and all of that, and that also causes, when you are doing credit applications, let's just say, if you're constantly getting that message of, we'll take 7 to 10 days to tell you the answer on if you will get approved or not, right? We'll mail you a letter out in 7 to 10 days to let you know if you've been denied or approved, etc., right? Typically those 7 to 10 day responses is because they couldn't verify your name. I mean, they couldn't verify your identity. There was some misinformation with what you reported on your credit application versus what was already reported on your credit report. There's misinformation. So they either think it's identity theft, or they just want to ensure that it's you that's actually applying, and also that you are who you say you are. And that's why they'll say like, we have to wait. We can't instantly approve you because there's some mismatches in your personal information, and we want to make sure we're not just, lending you money, right? um Another telltale sign of if this your personal information section needs a cleanup: anytime you go to a government site or any banking site or financial services site, and they're doing that identity verification questions, those identity verification questions where they'll ask you things like, in 2006 you financed the car through which dealer, and they'll give you like three options, right? How much is the monthly payment on that auto loan, right? And they'll give you three options. If you are constantly recognizing information or options that does not apply to you, like if you look at that like, I didn't have a car, and I didn't finance a car in 2006. I'm 21, right? Or you constantly see addresses that keep coming up, and you're like, I don't recognize these addresses. Like, to the point where you're failing those identification questions, that's typically the biggest indicator that your personal information is either your credit file rather is either being mixed or merged with another consumer that has a similar name to you, or maybe like a similar address, and you need to clean up your personal information section. Is too much conflicting information in there. And that will literally slow down all of your credit applications. Honestly, some companies don't even won't even care to check past, like, if they already see that there's maybe, some mismatched information. Some companies will outright just deny you even if you qualify for the card. There are so many people who get denials because of their personal information section. Okay. The next one, which is the addresses and the employers, those make such a difference on your credit applications. If you have 10, 12 addresses, 8 to 10 employers that's reporting on your credit report, your lenders, your current lenders, and also your future lenders, the lenders that you are applying for credit with, they are literally and have and will deny you sometimes based on that information that's in your personal information section. So no, it doesn't change your credit score. However, it does make a difference on your borrowing power because wow, you've worked at 10 different places in the last 2 years. That's a red flag as a lender. So your score may qualify. You have a job now, but because we see that you can't keep stable employment, we're going to have to deny you. Your money does not look stable. It's a red flag, and they will literally deny you for having too many employers or even addresses. The number one thing that a lenders look for is stability in all areas of your life. So they want to see that you have stayed at an address for more than a year. You'll notice that once you have an employer on your credit report for 2 years or more, then you'll start. It's usually easier to get approved for things. Okay, if you're self-employed, my recommendation is to put that you are an employee of your company. Like me, I'm self-employed. I've been self-employed for years. On my credit report, I don't need to flex to say I'm self-employed. I'm an employee of Road to 750, period. Because I am. Like I am an employee of it. You don't have to know that I'm self-employed because all it does is make it harder, make the application process harder. Now you are wanting me to take the extra step and verify every single thing that should have already been verified. But because you just want to, be sure, I have to now go and fish out all this documents and all. It's too much. When you are doing a credit application, your best bet is to always match every piece of information that you're reporting on that application. Make sure that it is already on your credit report. That's the smoothest application process. So if you're not used to getting instant approvals, it's probably because of this. Try that your next time. Try the next time that you apply for credit. Make sure that you don't report an employer that's not already on your credit report, an address, the variation of your name, a number. Report what's on your credit report. Therefore, you make the identification process smoother, right? Another thing, if you've just recently switched employers, I have a rule until I have worked for an employer or I advise this, until you have worked for an employer for 9 months, there's no need for them to be on your credit report at all. Just still report your old employer. I was reporting my old employer. I think I was self-employed for maybe 3 years before I started reporting my current employer, simply because I knew that having that new employer, that's the antithesis to credit applications. So if I'm applying for credit and I reported a new employer 2 months ago, then they consider that still the probational period. So it's like, oh, we don't even know if you're gonna have that job in 3 months. Everything may be good now, but you're very new there. And a lot of times, you're reporting your employers are reporting as new on your credit reports, and you don't even realize it. But maybe you spelled the name wrong. Maybe the company spelled the name wrong. Any misspellings or variations in any spelling, it'll automatically pop up as a new employer. So literally, let's just say you worked at Walmart and maybe on one application you spelled it WLMART. You somehow some way left off the A. That account that employer will pop up the following month as a new employer. So to all of your lenders, when you are doing a credit application, they're literally going to see that as a new employer 2 months ago, even if you've been working for them for 7 years, literally. So make sure when you are going through your personal information section that try to keep your employers at the maximum to two. Try to keep your addresses at the maximum of two. I'll tell you right now, if you have collection accounts, if you have charged off accounts that won't get removed, it's probably because of your addresses. It's the address that's reporting to one of your old closed accounts that you haven't even thought of in years. They're still reporting your old address, in which is tied to a collection account that you have. That's usually the main reason why people can't get them removed. Like, I kid you not. It's usually because of an old address. So the first thing that you do is, if you do know that you have an old address on one of your old accounts that's being tied to a collection that you're trying to currently dispute, you need to contact all of your current creditors on your credit report, even if it's by phone, and just say, hey, I was just calling to update my billing address, right? You update your billing address, make sure everybody is on one accord. I live at 123 Main Street, and you're going to see the following month, maybe 2 months at max, you'll see that your credit report will show that because all of them, again, they're required to report that to the credit bureau. So they'll all report 123 Main Street. Okay. So when they do update the address to the credit bureaus, now that old address that you had on that account, it's no longer tied to your collection account. Therefore, when you dispute the collection account, they can no longer use that as verification of that account because you've updated your address. So if you did live at your mom's address 5 years ago, and that's the only address that the collection agency was able to find, and they got a match with that, so they were able to report on your credit report, cool. If you update all of your creditors and ensure that none of your current accounts are tied to that address anymore, then you're able to dispute that collection, and they're not able to use your address as verification. They have to actually do their job. They have to actually validate the account and verify that all of the information is accurate outside of just an old address, right? So that's one of the main that's you don't know the unknown numbers. Oh, I don't answer the unknown numbers. Yeah, me neither. Me neither. Me neither. Me neither. Okay. So you're probably like, okay, well, how do we update our personal information? So it's oh, my bad. I didn't even mean to click on it. It's super simple. So remember when I told you guys that by law, the credit bureaus has to report accurate information, up to date information, and complete information. Okay. So if you do not currently live at that address anymore and you have not lived there for more than a year, then technically speaking, that is not up to date. It's not up to date. Doesn't matter what they tell you. So what I need you to do first before you get to disputing it, the best thing to do is to download an official copy of your credit report. Why? Does it matter? Is it going to make a difference in your disputes? It is. Because on your every credit report that you download, it'll have what's called a report number. When you include your reporting number on your disputes, it makes a difference, especially when it comes to personal information. Because then they can't lie and say, well, no, we don't have that address on your credit report. Or no, we've updated that address. No, you didn't. Because according to report 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, this was there. I even highlighted. Get an official copy of your credit report. Okay. That's also the only way you're going to be able to tell what collection account, what address is tied to what collection accounts. You have to have your official reports. Okay. Then after you download your reports, you need to contact all of your current creditors. So every as you're looking at your credit report, every account that's open, make sure that they're all reporting your current address. So whatever address you want them to report, whether that's if it could be your mom's address, as long as it's not a PO box. Just get everybody on one accord. All of your monthly updates from your current creditors, they should all be reporting the same address. I'm telling you, this is the easiest way. If they're all reporting the same address, then there is no argument they can't even argue that. It's without a doubt your address because all of your current creditors are reporting it. Okay. Make sure all of your current creditors are reporting your address. Just please make sure that everybody is on one accord, especially again, if you have a charge off or a collection tied to an address that you are trying to get removed. Right. Um, and you usually can call them. Like literally, you can call them. They're not going to say, no, that's not your address. No, call them. And then you'll see the following month as your credit report updates, you'll see that they've all updated their addresses. Okay. And then after you got all of your current creditors on one accord, so you have to make this is important. You cannot dispute addresses that's tied to collection accounts or any derogatory account. You cannot dispute a derogatory account that's tied to an address that any of your current creditors are reporting. Because it doesn't matter what you say to the credit bureaus, they're never going to take your word over what they have in black and white. If you have an open account with Capital One and Capital One just this month in February reported that this is your address, and you are telling me that the address that we have connected to this charge off account or the address that we have connected to this collection, which is the same address that Capital One just sent us, you're telling me that it's inaccurate, they're not going to take your word for it. By law, they can use the fact that your current creditor, current meaning open, if there is an open account on your credit report that is reporting any personal information, that information is automatically considered validated. That is automatically considered um validated, or I'm sorry, verified information. They do not have to take your word over that. So it's super important that you update your current creditors first. Okay? Then after you update your creditors, I usually say give it about 2 to 3 weeks at most, but usually around like 2 weeks before you'll see that they updated it on the credit bureaus or whatnot. And you won't get an alert for this. So let me be clear. So don't just be sitting around waiting for you to get an alert from, like Credit Karma or something to tell you that your address is updated. That's very rare, especially if it's an address that's already on your credit report. So don't wait for that. Don't think that if you do not receive any notification that you're doing it wrong. Just all I need you to do is worry about calling your creditors and making sure that they're all reporting one address. If you just moved, I'm gonna give you a hack. If you just moved, that's the best time to update because you don't have any collections or derogatory accounts tied to that address. It's a cheat code, I'm telling you. Okay. So again, update all of your current creditors to one address. After that, then you send a personal information update letter to the credit bureaus. Hear me. Do not include it in any of your disputes. This letter should be in its own envelope. Don't mention a collection account. Don't mention a derogatory account. This letter should be super simple. Hey, I'm just updating my address, or even if your name, like it doesn't matter what you are disputing. But I'm just saying any personal information. I'm just updating my. I noticed that you had a misspelling of my name. Here is how I spell my name. Here is the proof. I'm sending a copy of my ID, or I'm sending proof of my residency, my address. Please update my credit report. You're not disputing anything. You're literally just sending a formal request to update your information. Okay? That's it. That's all. Keep it real cute. I'm telling you. Okay? Then if after your credit reports are updated, so you obviously have to give them 30 days per bureau, I mean per per round. If you find that they're still holding on to personal information and are not deleting it, chances are, as I stated, they have a derogatory account specifically that's tied to that address. That's usually the only time they won't delete an address, if they have a derogatory account that's tied to it, because legally they can say, oh well, no, your creditors are reporting this. Okay. So then you need to find out, is there an account that's being tied to this address and I don't realize it, or I don't know? Mind you, when you are looking at your credit monitoring app, they only show you 2 years. They only show you 2 years and up to, I think, like 5 addresses. So it's very likely that 4 years ago, you could have an account that's 4 years old. It's being tied to an address that you don't see as you're casually scrolling on your consumer report. However, if you download your official report, because they have a 7-year history, you're able to see it. And I'll show you guys how to identify if it is. Okay, so this is the follow-up letter. Okay. And then after you send the follow-up letter, typically, again, if as long as it's not tied to a derogatory account, then they cannot, by law, they can't refuse it. They cannot refuse your update. I was trying to pull up the sample of report I had. Give me just a second. But yeah, so get that account. Oh, put it the wrong slides. Get that address removed before you even think about disputing. This is specifically for charge-offs and collections, as I stated. Charge-offs and collections, because those are the ones that'll hold it. Where is it? I had blocked out a report. I have a report example, and I had blocked out all the personal information, but for some reason I can only see the one that I didn't block out. So that's fun. Give me a second. And I don't want to show y'all nobody's information, child. Okay. By the way, um, there's a personal information dispute kit. It is obviously free to you guys, but it's in the member files. It's already in the member files. It's called personal information kit. It has all the letters that you would need in order to dispute your personal information, regardless of what is wrong with it. No, that's not it. All right. And so as I pull this up, do you guys have any questions? Give me while I pull this up. Oh, okay. All right. So I'm looking for the comments. Okay. So what if they charged off an account is at my current address? Then you're going to have to dispute that account based on something other than like you're going to hope and pray that there's something wrong with how that account is being reported. Specifically, you're going to want to be here next week because actually, you guys, my new charge off method. So I've been disputing charge offs a different way than I typically do, and I wasn't obviously included in this, not in today, but like when we talk about disputing charge offs, and it's been really effective. So I am very excited. I was actually going to do a poll this week in a group to see how many people had charge offs and how many people wanted to help me to continue to test this out because I've only had a small quantity of people that I personally know in my personal day-to-day life that has had charged off that I can test it with. But like so far, it's been honestly it's been the most effective charge off, specifically charge off method that I have had. But I need more samples. So I actually was going to ask you guys who, if you got a charge off, I'll, obviously give you the step by steps, the letters. Um, and I would love to like have a larger sample size, especially before I sell my new charge off kit on the site. Not for you guys. You guys will get it free, but like publicly. I like to just really test it out. But it had yo, I don't want to get all deep into that because we are talking about disputing. Um, see, I feel like we shouldn't even get into like so next week, the theme, let me just ask you guys. The theme for next week is collections versus charge-offs. Basically the account section, what to look for on each account, how to know if something is off, how to know if something is a discrepancy and what to do about it. How to use your official credit report that you do have in order to challenge it, in order to use every piece of information that's included in each section to challenge it. What laws to use and all of that. Because I outlined all of that. And we're disputing them in a different way than I usually teach on, right? Like it's usually a way that like professionals will do, but it's a little harder to like teach. However, I wanted to show you guys it so that you can start disputing your credit report that way. Especially for advanced cases like charge-offs, bankruptcies, and things of that nature. But it requires you to obviously know how to look at your report to identify them. And so next week is primarily about the account section, collections, charge-offs, foreclosures. Um, and then the following week is going to be public records. So public records are not going to be next week for the person who just asked about bankruptcy. That's not going to be next week. That's going to be the week after. But today was about personal information because this is I hope you guys can see the building block. Personal information is so boring and it's easy to want to skip, but I'm telling you, by the time you get to challenging third, fourth round into your collection and charge offs, you're going to wish that you took the time to dwindle down your personal information as much as you can. I kid you not. I have seen it thousands and thousands of times. No exaggeration. You're going to wish that even if you thinking like, oh, I don't have anything tied to it. I promise you, when you look at your full credit report, the chances of you having something tied, an address, a name, like a misspelling of your name, an employer, an old employer, the chances of you having something tied to a derogatory account is very high. I'm telling you, that's usually how they get you. And I always say the devil is in the details, because these are the details that I'm talking about. You'll have an account that is qualifiable to get deleted, removed based on how it's reporting in other areas, but because it's tied to your personal information, we can't get it deleted. We cannot get it removed. So this week is all about personal information, and I didn't want to even move, because I'm like, I don't even want to touch on accounts until we do the personal information. Because the amount of times we've had to backtrack and be like, we in round 5, and then now suddenly you telling me that, oh wait, this is an old address and da da da. I'm like, well, we could have did that in round 1. So I'm going against my better judgment. I'm not going to skip. I can't move forward because it's important. So this week is looking at your personal information, identifying if you have more than 2 addresses reporting, get it off. Some gotta go. You don't live 3 different places now. Your mama's address, your sister's, brother's, cousin's address, all of them gotta go. All of them has to go. We need this. For personal information section, the goal is to have no more than 2 names. If you've just recently been married, you can get 3. I'll give you 3 only because obviously your maiden name in the first few years or whatever, when you initially get married, you will have, some companies still calling you and going by your maiden name. So I'll give you an exception of 3 if you've recently gotten married within the last 2 years. Outside of that, mm-mm. Your phone number. Again, that's your choice. If you want to have your phone number on there, you don't have to, but I do have mine, because like when I do want to freeze my credit reports, I require that the companies call me in order to open an account. Your employers, I cannot stress enough, that one is so important. I promise you, that one alone, employers alone, is the reason why you're probably not getting approved for the credit limit or a credit card that you want. I'm telling you, it's probably your employer section. You probably have 10 plus employers. The picture that I showed you guys on that last where it had the screenshot of the personal information, you seen they had 12 employers. They had 12 employers reporting on their credit report, and probably like 4 of them was the same company, just misspelled. Some had LLC, some had whatever. Those make a difference, because no, you got to think about it. A person is not reading your credit application. It goes through a system. It goes through a computer. That computer will take it at face value. If it says that you have a new employer 2 months ago, even though you've been working there for 7 years, the computer is not going to care to stop to question it. If it's misspelled, it counts as a separate employer. Like that, it's nothing personal. You gotta always understand that when it comes to reporting, you're talking to a computer, the algorithm. So how something is reporting is so important, because it does make the difference in you getting approved or not, or what you are approved for. So personal information this week, clean up your personal information. So up until this point, you should have lowered your utilization down at least 1 threshold. That was last week. Okay, even if you didn't get it all the way to 1 to 9%, I understand that it's only been a week, whatever. Just as long as if you are above 98, get it to below 97. If you are below 97, then the next threshold is under 48. And then under 28. So work the thresholds down. You lowered your utilization. This week, you are cleaning your personal information. Okay. So next week, when we start discussing disputing, like actually disputing your credit report based on Metro 2 compliancy laws and all of that, then you will already have this done, because this will absolutely stop you when it comes to Metro 2 compliancy. We're not doing disputes that's just regular disputes that you will see like floating around. Like that's not how we are disputing them. We are literally disputing them based on the statutes surrounding how accounts are supposed to report. There are multiple you know how, I don't know if you're new here. If you're not new here, you've heard me say this before. I always say, whether a collection is yours or not, whether a charge off is yours or not, is not the determining factor on if it can report to your credit report. That's not what determines if it can report. It is if it is accurate. So if they can verify your identity, there are still 37 other fields that has to be right, that has to be accurate in order for that account to truly be considered verified. 37 other fields, right? And that's why a lot of times we'll be constantly sending the same dispute letters and disputing and wondering why like we can't get it deleted, because you just not challenging the right thing. You're not challenging the right thing. You have to understand there are 37 things that a creditor has to have right, a collection agency specifically or whatever has to have right in order to report. Do you understand how uncommon it is for a collection agency to ever have all of the information that they need? I'm talking like it's extremely rare. It is extremely rare because it is a lot of information that they have to have, and they're not used to consumers knowing this information and challenging them on it. We'll have everything in writing. So it gets a lot easier when you can really truly clean up your report correctly and then dispute based on that. I'm telling you, it makes a difference. Metro 2 compliancy is something that we couldn't even automate all the way. So even if you are enrolled in credit account, we couldn't automate this completely because there are so many different fields and it is widely determined off your personal information. So yeah, it just was too complicated. Hopefully in the future, but this is still the manual work that we have to do. And I wanted to take you guys through that process. So then at the end, you have a completely clean credit profile and also a real route if you are disputing, a real path to truly getting and targeting those accounts that just won't come off by way of FCRA or FDCPA. It's so important that you do personal information though. I know I keep saying that. Okay. So that's the lesson for this week. If you again don't know how to update your credit report, I will put a the personal information kit is already in the files, but I'll also still put it with this lesson. It's a full kit of the letters that you need in order to properly challenge your personal information. Okay. All I need you to do is mail them to the credit bureaus and fill in your information. Send a copy of your ID like normal. That's all I need you to do. And of course update your current creditors. So that is the goal for this week, is to at the very least update all of your current creditors. Update all of your current creditors. It's gonna take you probably an hour or so just to sit down one day and just call all of your current creditors. Hey, I'm just making sure that you guys have my most recent address. It's usually a 5 minute. Sometimes you can do it online too. Like so, that's your current. That's the homework for this week. Updating your current creditors on your address, ensuring that all of your current creditors are on the same address. You cannot have a PO box, guys. Um, LexisNexis will still have that information despite it being taken off your credit report, right? Great question. Great question, cuz you probably looked at the menu for next week. But yeah, we are actually discussing LexisNexis next week as well. But it'll start with this. It'll start here. It'll start here. So it'll all tie in. But I forgot what I was going to say. Yeah. Oh, so LexisNexis, they're a lot easier to dispute than the credit bureaus. I always tell y'all that it's a lot easier to dispute LexisNexis than the credit bureaus because LexisNexis don't really they're not trying to match your account with a collection account. Like they don't care. They just want as much information as they can. It just really don't matter to them like that. It's a lot easier and usually you're disputing with a person. So it's always the credit bureaus. And personal information is not a hard dispute for the credit bureaus. You just have to do it correctly. Yep, you've been here for yeah, I know, I recognize your name anyway. Hold on. If we sent out round one letters, can we still send a separate letter for our personal information? Good question, Latacia. Yes, you can. So actually, personal information is something that you can dispute at any point. The only exception is to ensure that it's in its own envelope, as I always tell. So don't put it in the same envelope, nor would I even mail it within like 3 days to a week from when I'm sending like account disputes. I'm really probably gassing the 3 days to a week thing. It's honestly that's probably something that's in my head, but to me, it has made a difference when I like there's a separation because usually if they receive multiple letters from the same person, they'll just group them all together and they'll go to the same department. And that's what you don't want, right? Next week when we talk about how our dispute letters are coded and how often our dispute letters are coded incorrectly, which is what leads to the credit bureaus being able to verify our disputes without any second thought. Well, when we talk about that, you'll see how often like they love to just group some accounts. They love to group disputes together and code them wrong. And in order to avoid that, especially with personal information, I just recommend there's some separation. Not in the same envelope. Again, I usually wait like 3 days to a week just to ensure that the other one makes it and it's not all making it on the same day. Okay. Um, because again, the personal information is not a dispute. You don't even want that. They don't even have to go to the dispute. Uh that doesn't even have to go to the dispute department at all because it's just an update request. It's an update request. I will update the ID first, then dispute it unless Shauna states otherwise. Wait, I ain't see the question. Should we pause our dispute process with CA until we complete this series? You don't have to, no, because this series it'll add to your dispute process. So like it's nothing that requires you to have to like halt any disputes, right? Again, personal information is something that along your process, every few months, I may send a letter to the credit bureaus updating my personal information just if I notice something, right? Like so because it's not a dispute, it's just an ongoing maintenance check, I'll say. Maybe twice a year I'll send a personal information update just to ensure are we good? Hold on, y'all ain't reporting nothing. So no, I wouldn't you don't have to. And also when it comes to like collections and charge-offs, if you have disputed those already, because we're not disputing them under the same dispute reason and we're disputing them completely under a different set of statutes and laws and method, it actually helps it, right? Like the disputes that we're going to talk about specifically for charge offs, it's considered like an advanced method. So you would have already had to send at least a general dispute letter information request, right? So you don't have to stop it at all, like literally at all. It'll all like tie in. Sh- um I will wait before I send personal information because Equifax needed more information from me to continue the dispute process that I just sent them today. They sent you the stall letter. Did you can I go to the hmm, I wonder if I can share. I had put a letter for the stall. Did you see the stall letter that I put up? So like when they stall you and try to continue to request that you send information, just send that letter. It's in the member files. It's in the Kia. Are you in here, Kia? It's in a learning lab. It's in a learning lab. It's called the stall. It's the title is like what to do when the credit bureaus keep stalling you. See if I can go to it. Oh, okay. I'm glad you asked this. If your current ID has your old address, should you wait to dispute after updating it or proceed with the old one? So if you have an ID that still has your old address, as long as you're able to send something alongside it that verifies your current address, so like a utility bill within the last 30 days, a bank statement within the last 30 days, uh a lease or any official document that has your name, your new address within the last that's dated within the last 30 days, that actually will trump the address that you have on your ID because we can have an ID for 10 years, right? Which is why you will send proof of your residency alongside your ID in order to verify your address. So no, you don't have to wait until you get a new you don't have to wait until you get a new ID. You just have to have some sort of documentation that shows that's recent that shows that you moved. That shows that you moved. Um, is it good to dispute an old address that is tied to a collection? Absolutely. It's absolutely. But yeah, that's what I was saying. Like so, but you probably are not getting that collection removed or even getting a true investigation on that collection account because you have a old address that's tied to that account. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. I think I misunderstood your question actually. Is it good to dispute an old address that is tied? Oh, yes. Yes. I overthought that. I was overthinking that question. Absolutely. If it's tied to an old address, that's perfect. Dispute the old address because it's old and you are entitled to an up-to-date credit report. So yes, dispute that. That's the goal. That's the best case scenario when you do have a collection that's tied to an address that you no longer live. Yes. Yeah, so next week, week 3, so week 3 is sort of when we are, getting into the thick of it in terms of talking about accounts, collections, all trade lines specifically. So collections, credit cards, charge-offs, all account types. And we are going to really, really talk about and discuss the differences between them, also the requirements for each of them, what each of them has to have in order to be considered a legally reported account, and how often these things are incorrect, and how you can use it to your advantage in order to legally dispute the account on the basis of misreporting, incomplete reporting, inaccurate reporting. And we'll have the best thing about this is you'll have the proof on your credit report. You're able to highlight it and send it to them, so there's no question. There's no question. You don't have to continue to keep arguing back and forth. It's a lot easier when you're able to show them that they're wrong, and properly challenge them. So we're getting into the thick of it next week. I sent Experian an ID with an old address, but bill with my new address so that they can send me my report. They sent it. I have my new ID with my current address now. Should I update my personal information now, or will they give me trouble? No, they I mean, they can't give you trouble. You have a new ID. But yeah, you can update your ID every month if you moved every month. So they don't there's no amount of times that you we can update our personal information. Some people literally will send a personal information every month until until it's completed or whatever. So no, you don't. As long as you have the documentation to prove it, then they can't argue with you, which is why you do have to make sure you do send the documentation though. If I've been working with a company for 8 years and they get bought out by a different company, will that impact my credit decision? I have seen that before. That has also happened to me, or a company like literally changed their name. And unfortunately, when I did another application, I had to report that company. Typically, what I'll do is I'll literally put, like, if it's Sprint, because this happened to me with Sprint before they closed. I was working at Sprint or whatever, and I had like Sprint, and then I had started putting, I just had a brain fart. I started putting the new name, but then I would put in parentheses formerly known as, or formerly Sprint, so that if I do a credit application and I'm denied, or they're trying to verify my identity, I just let them know, hey, that's still the same company. I've been working for them for X amount of years, etc. So, and it's on your credit report. So I'll usually just put formerly known as. Also, you can just, when you are doing your personal information update, when you send that letter, one of the fields that you're able to put is, my employer is this. I've worked for them for X amount of years," and you'll just request that they remove all other variations of spelling or employers from your report. Then they'll just put that report, and then they're able to manually say since 2008, or whatever the case may be. I mean, that's what I was thinking of, Brent. T-Mobile. I'm like, wait, I literally was having a brain fart. But yes, T-Mobile. I used to work for Sprint a while ago. Can you do a pay to delete and settle for a lower amount at the same time? Yeah, some companies will allow you to, but some companies like to be sticklers about it, and really say, like, if we're gonna delete it, then you need to pay us in full. But a lot of companies definitely still will take that settlement, and have taken the settlement in exchange for a deletion. How long have I kept you guys? Why don't show me the time? 1:30. That is good. That is good. Normally we here a lot longer. That's great. Yeah, this week wasn't heavy at all. I was really still trying to stay under an hour. I gotta get better with that, y'all. I gotta get better with that. Um But yeah, so the goal and theme of this week is personal information. Don't skip over it. I know it's annoying and boring and seems useless, but I promise you it does make a difference. I promise you I would not have you doing no step just for the heck of it. That does not. I hate this part of the repair process, by the way, y'all. I hate this part of the process because it's so boring to me. It's not what excites me at all. Now, what excites me is like Metro 2 compliancy and reading credit. Like that's my jam. That's my jam. That's my jam. So I'm already let you guys know that next week live is probably gonna be 2 hours. Plan for it, I know, but it's probably gonna be 2 hours. I'm gonna try to do it under an hour, but it's probably gonna be 2 hours. Um, yeah, because we're talking about yeah. So this week is light. Next week is yeah, yeah. All right. So personal information. If you guys have any questions still, I'll be in the group as always. Y'all don't really be asking a lot of questions and ask Shonda, but if you ever ask a question, let's just say on the main timeline, and I don't see it or you still haven't received an answer, you can specifically go to the Ask Shonda section and submit your question. And then those are the questions like I try to answer as many of those as detailed as possible every day. And those are for like extensive you need like like an extensive answer, not like a quick hey do this do that. It's those are the questions that I typically use in order to create new lessons and also add new files to the member files and stuff like that, because again I try to really take my time and answer those and really research whatever you guys are asking me. So just FYI, if you do still have any questions, and it doesn't have to just be over personal information, anything credit or finances, those are that's the section where I spend most of my time when I'm in the group. I do spend it in the Ask Shonda section because I really want to give you guys like thoughtful answers that actually answers your question and helps you. Okay. So yes, I think I'm caught up, but I may still have like a few more, but I try as best as I can to stay caught up with that section. Um yeah. So if you have any just regular questions about personal information or whatever the case may be, credit reporting, yeah, you can still write on the regular wall. But like I said, those more nuanced questions, or maybe you want to show me something specifically, then submit it in the Ask Shonda section. Also, I would recommend that everyone goes and reads the questions that or that members have already asked and that I've already provided like answers to, because those are questions that I get a lot. So I'm sure it'll probably help you as well. So that section is it's super it's super educational, like super, because it's so many questions that I'd be like, oh, I didn't even think of that. Like that's why I love that section so much. But yeah, so check out that. You will receive a copy of the playback, a handout of a personal information kit, and all of the information for today within this section. And yeah, as always, any other questions, make sure you guys are writing it in the group. Our neighbors move in tomorrow, guys. I told you guys last week. So our neighbors move in tomorrow, but we still have our VIP section. But I just want to give you guys a heads up. The neighbors move in. Be nice. Be nice, guys, and help me welcome our new credit cousins tomorrow, okay? Oh, absolutely. The most interesting thing is how lenders will judge you based on your personal information on your credit report. Man, when I tell you, I can't wait to show you what they see, because they don't see the same report as we see, and I have examples of that that I'm going to include. Like y'all gonna see how much information and all of the things that they see and how they judge us. Like literally, it's a thing, which is why it's exciting. But yes, like your personal information makes a lot of a difference, a big difference. But yeah, so I will talk to you guys. I'll talk to let me close out the webinar, but I'm gonna talk to y'all throughout the week. But hold on, let me timestamp this. Let me close out the webinar. All right, so that concludes week 2 of Credit Bootcamp. Today we discussed personal information. We discussed credit reports, our credit reports, specifically our personal information, in the importance of cleaning up that section, identifying what accounts are tied to different areas of our personal information section, and what's keeping them bound to our report. So the goal for this week and the homework for this week is to take a look at your credit report in general, but specifically pay attention to your personal information and determine if you have too much information, because you probably do. You are probably giving them way too much information that helps them and works against you. So before you even move on to the next step, make sure you are cleaning up your personal information. This is not a step that you can skip, because it does make a difference. Okay. So I will see you guys next week. Next week is week 3 of Credit Bootcamp. We are discussing um credit reporting more, but detailed, and also more so the legalities around how our credit reports are governed and how they are supposed to report, and what are the laws that we don't typically as consumers deal with when it comes to credit reporting. Metro 2 compliancy specifically, what do they require? What is the standardized way an account is supposed to report, from collections, charge-offs, foreclosures, bankruptcies, regular credit card accounts, and all. So next week is going to be an exciting one. It's going to be a long one, and I look forward to talking with you guys about it. I hope you guys learned something. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next week. Okay, bye. And that's how I fake ended. But yeah, I will see you guys in the group. Just holler at me in the group, at me. I'm literally in the group every day. I'll tell you that all the time, but I really am. Yes, I'm excited for next week. So plan some time out for next week. Please have your reports. Please have your reports. If you don't have them this week, just have them next week. Please get them today. It's 5 minutes to download them, y'all. All right. So I will see you guys next week. I'm tired. What time is it? Oh, it's early. Okay, great. Have a blessed night. I love you guys. I enjoyed spending time with you guys. Guys, real quick, would y'all want to do Zooms? Because I be wanting to do Zooms throughout the week, like Zooms in terms of like not me teaching, but like we're on a panel, like we're just talking to one another. But like don't expect the lesson. I'm talking like casual type of thing. I be wanting to do that, but I'm like, girl, them people busy. Like they busy. But let me know if y'all be want to do that. Because I be wanting to do like Bible studies and stuff, book clubs and all of that. But I'm like, I gotta test, I gotta see if y'all want that. But yeah, um, holla at me in a group. I'm finna be in a group literally right now. So if you have a question, go in the group and I'll be there. I love you guys. I'm praying for you guys as always. And I will see you later. How do you end this? Oh.